Let me share with you some things about working with the Residue calculator spreadsheet. This screencast assumes that you understand the concept of a residue curve and you have a concept of how they're calculated and what they're going to be used for. So this screencast will focus only on the running of the spreadsheet. There are several workbooks. There's the calculator workbook where the calculations are performed. There's a data sheet that holds intermediate calculations of the activity coefficients, and this is where you would adjust activity coefficient parameters for the uniquac equation. The sheet calculated curves holds the curves that we generate. We generate one curve at a time using this spreadsheet. And then those curves that are stored are plotted automatically on this sheet, at least up to the first 7 or 8 curves. Alright, there's a couple things that can happen with this sheet, and if you read the directions here, I suggest you adjust the Antoine coefficients and the uniquac parameters, and then save the workbook with a new name and unprotect this particular sheet. Well, I'm going to go ahead and save this, but I'll show you what happens if you do forget to unprotect the worksheet. I'll save this as residue lira. Okay, and if we come to review, you can see this sheet is currently still protected, and if we click clear the macro button to clear the old calculations, we have an error that pops up. Now, Excel's not smart enough to tell us exactly what the problem is, but the problem is that I forgot to unprotect the sheet, and I'm trying to make modifications on this. And so just click End and then unprotect the sheet. Okay. Now, the other thing, before you actually generate a curve, you want to choose a location for that curve to pass through. So I do that by going to my plot and I look at what curves I've generated, and then I pick a composition. So let me just choose a composition in this area. So I'll choose a composition at 0.2, 0.1. And I set that composition in what I call the start row, which is the highlighted row. The composition of component 3 is calculated by difference. Now this performs a bubble temperature calculation at each composition, and you'll see that setting for the pressure is set in the macro routine. Now I'm ready to clear the old calculations, and I end up with the start row and one iteration above and below that starting composition. And you can see it now performing the bubble temperature calculations. This column H is the pressure, and I'm adjusting the temperature to match 760 millimeters. It calculates down the table and then up the table from the start point. It's almost done. Alright, now I got no errors. All of my bubble temperatures are converged. So let me copy this curve. I'll copy this, right click, copy. And I'll paste values on this table, and then you'll see the curve appear in my plot. Okay, let me tell you something else before we quit, some other things that might happen. This happens particularly on older versions of Excel. Excel sometimes can't find the solver tool that is used at each of the lines. And so you might get an error. And when that happens, you'll need to come over to the developer side. I don't recall exactly if it pops up, but I believe it will pop up automatically, and it'll be kind of confusing because all of a sudden you'll be in this window. I do have some directions here about can't find project or library. Well, hit the reset button to stop, and then come to Tools and References, and you'll have a little indication here by Solver that it can't find it, right? So then you want to browse, and on my particular machine here, of course I don't have the problem, but it's typically going to be in your program files. Okay, and in mine it's x86, and then Microsoft Office, and then Office 15, and then Library. Typically it's in a folder called Library. And I need to change this. I need to look for the XLAM file. There it is. Okay, and that's how I would tell the macro how to find the solver tool. Then we just close out of this completely, and then save the Excel sheet, and then reopen the Excel sheet before you use it. Thanks a lot.